Okay, greetings. Okay, so this will be a short channeling. Um, so our modern world is, I don't know, things are harder than it needs to be in our modern day insane asylum. Not everybody's like that, but obviously there are many here that need to make life as difficult as possible. Like instead of just opening something up, you need to I don't know, go through all their insecurities and something and whatever. Just go ass backwards and everything. But some of that has to do with the Gilded Age, which is interesting. That I don't know if it was a Gilded Age. I don't pay attention to names and all that, but I guess it's like 1877 to 1900s. That's during the time of Rockefellers and who's here. um, Rockefeller and robber barons, stuff like that. Which makes sense that we're going. Now, not everybody's. Well, we're kind of getting affected by it. Not there's those people are still here at some point. Let's put it that way. Those have lived in those eras. So you might have dealt with people here that have been wealthy in that time period, or whatever it was. I'll just say wealthy because they're the ones that are usually the most difficult to deal with because they're so used to getting whatever they want, making everyone's life a living hell. Not always, but there's a lot of that. So yeah, like you've had like a wealthy, or this goes for any era, but if you have like a wealthy incarnation somewhere, and you're so used to a certain lifestyle, and then you're like not living that life in this modern world, but you still kind of act like it. And you end up in the same old relationships you probably should have just walked away from in this time. But that's a test. So interesting. Well, for example, this is a little bit different. I'll just share this one. I think it has some relevance. This isn't about the Gilded Age, but there was someone I knew a while back. She was in a relationship, and she always had kind of issues in this relationship, and he was a little bit obsessive, and she did a past life thing, and she ended up he was an abuser, like in some farmland somewhere, and drunk, and she shot him. And then she ended up in a relationship here for some whatever reason. I guess I felt sorry for him. I'm not sure what the story was on that one. So yeah, there's that. That's a little bit different than the Gilded Age. But then again, he's got these Gilded Age wealthy people, and now they might not be wealthy in this lifetime, but they're still kind of chasing the wrong everything and making life more difficult than it needs to be. So something to think about. Some of us have lived in the different eras. Obviously, I know I've been part of the Whig Party in Europe, like Vienna. I wasn't wealthy though, but lived in that era, and that was difficult. But I think I cleared that in previous incarnation and some in this. I think it was mostly previous incarnation. We have to deal with those type of people though. The Whig Party I think is worse, but the Gilded Age ain't great either. It's got they even made a TV show about it. They made a TV show about it. And when I saw Gilded, I never heard about it. I picked up Gilded Age. I looked it up, and it had I don't know where that TV show is. I'm not gonna look at it, but yeah. So obviously those people are still here because they're not making Whig Party the TV show. It's the Gilded Age TV show. So that says a lot. Yeah, period costume piece. Let's see if I can look it up here. Let's see. Yeah, season 1, season 2, season 3. Really? I didn't know there was a season 1. I never heard of it. It's on some kind of. It's on It's on HBO too. Huh, interesting. Huh. Yeah, it's just all that rich people stuff or modern or whatever. Either way, it's here. Yeah, those in the modern era that are making life more difficult than it has to be. Or like I said, again, relationships they don't need to be in. So it's something to think about as you do your clearings or whatever it is, whatever era you need to clear out. But during that, yeah, especially like there's like wealthy people from that era that are here now. I guess want everything at a certain ambiance or a certain level of quality, and they're not getting it. And so, yeah, it can be very confusing. Well, I did have or I don't know if it was a friend or it was a parasite, one of the two. And he was big on, he had to have stuff that was, like, he wasn't wealthy, but he kind of lived like it. Yeah, but he was kind of like, I don't even go into it. It's like this. It's kind of, it's like going backwards in evolution. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into that and give people bad luck. Give myself bad luck. All right. 7.com, my prior sessions. Scheduler. Shop here. I'm trying and quiet down my mouse situation here. So, all right, Priscilla's here. Fritzy's sleeping or in the background doing background stuff. All right, going to the Gilded Age. Just basically, why does life have to be so difficult? Of course, you have the news stuff that's going on. Whatever. Of course, that was during that age too. It's just, I mean, everybody needs a hobby, right? Worry about stuff you can't have no control over. Sure. Talk about soul growth or just a wasted life, whatever comes first. Go waste your time somewhere. So at least you're right. Get you out of the house, right? Give you something to worry about for no reason. Work on your anxiety. So, all right, we're going to the Gilded Age frequency or just the modern frequencies of what's going on in society in general. It's more complicated than it needs to be. I guess if it was simpler, we probably wouldn't be here, I guess. That's why some of us come here, because somebody make it so difficult and go backwards forever. Anyway, okay, here we go. Blessings. Greens, this is Mother Earth. First, yes, I'll connect, and then others will give their own perspective. There are humans here that have to just go slowly in their social. Well, they want a certain social life, and so they go for it. It doesn't mean it's of the best for themselves. They just think it's best for them, and it ends up just biting them in the ass, as you can say. And you see a lot of that. So even during that time, there's so many that they just feel like they know what's best for themselves, and then they end up being wrong. And you have that in the modern era also. Yes, to give you a laugh, there was a lot of prostitution back then, and there is now. But those prostitutes back then, male and female, are here in the modern era, and they don't remember that they were prostitutes back then. So there's kind of living that lifestyle still. For example, it's not everybody, but it's a good portion. So they haven't quite cleared that energy. They don't know what they're doing or they know a lot of people, of course. But they're also lost. So that's one example of what you're dealing with here. That they're not it's not cut and dry as you like it to be. Yeah, like I say, not everybody that you know is having a difficult problem has been in those lifetimes recently, maybe at one time. Not always. Not everybody needs to go through that. Others have been shopped around, sold off, like in their families, like, you have a daughter or son and you sell it off to something, meaning that you're into a marriage, into a social situation. Let's put it that way. And now they're in the modern era and they're kind of going back to those relationships, not realizing that was not a good idea. Well, they're so used to it, and they might have the same parents they've had back then. Of course, the parents now just don't do that anymore, or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of that going on too. So you have these complicated situations here that don't make complete sense. And it's not labeled that way in your modern world because your world is, yes, supposed to be backwards. It doesn't have to be. But the reason this is bringing it up now, well, it's, you can say you're coming to an era of releasing these situations if you want to. Many would rather not to know, and they still don't know, of course. But there's a lot of inventory. Yeah, during the times of, yes, going into the 1900s, there's a lot of individuals here that are still lost from that. Well, they feel like they've figured out that era, but they can't seem to get the modern era to work right. They're trying to copy an old lifetime into the modern era instead of moving forward and connect to somebody new. Sometimes they connect to somebody old, and then they get lost. It's like, they kind of, they don't. It's like kind of going through your soul's photographs of the past and trying to reconnect to those that you don't really need to connect to. That's why so many people have bad relationships here in the modern era. Yeah, you might mingle with them. It does not mean you have to, experience that again, but so many do the same thing over and over again. So there's other energies I want to go into this. So blessings. Greetings. We have energies from spirit realms, the astral frequencies. So the souls that incarnate here, yes, can get easily lost in an old time period. Well, it also has to do with the costumes, the theater of that era, and you can also still feel like you're living in the Roman era, the ancient Rome times, in the modern era. You'd be surprised how many are doing that currently. I've not quite cut that cord. But some of them make it work also. They can make it like they don't fall for the old relationships, can keep evolving. But in your Gilded Age, your 1900 time period, many are still kind of stuck there and don't realize it. For social purposes, one moment. And then there are others that just have gotten so lost in their time period here. Like they've gotten so lost within being raised here, they don't know what direction they're going in. It's like they like missing something and they can't quite ground themselves here. So they're kind of grabbing at straws, don't know where they're going, almost drowning to some level due to their upbringing. And sometimes they incarnate with parents that are just clueless to their modern reality. Like they only can know how to focus on themselves, but they can't raise a child for anything. That happens there. Yeah, it's like they can focus on their social skills, their family, but they can't really raise a kid for anything. They can kind of take what they've learned and try to teach it to a kid, but that's not always how it works. It doesn't always work that way. Well, they're like shut off spiritually. I mean, they can't quite pick up of what's best for the kid on an intuitive level. There's a lot of that happening right now. To give you some clarity there. So a lot of parents that are shut off from themselves. And so you have a kid that needs some guidance here to, follow their instincts. Instead, their chakras are blocked and their mind is not clear and they can't figure out where to go. It's like growing up in mud. That's what's happening now. It's just that there's a lot of parents that don't, they've been raised halfway decent, but they can't seem to raise anything besides themselves. Well, some of it's self-indulgence, just giving back to themselves constantly. They think having kids, the kids will just kind of raise themselves. In some ways that does work, but not always. Sometimes you can confuse the kid even more. And truly just kind of like, almost like putting blinders on where the kids can't just see, they can't figure themselves out. Like they're like halfway raised. It's like there's still a child energy, and it might be an adult, but it's still acting like a child, or like 12, 13. They can't seem to what do you call it, mature due to parenting that is just kind of lackluster. Here's the television, here's family gatherings. Isn't that enough for you to grow up? It's like, no. You need actually answers. You need some kind of direction. A lot of parents don't do that nowadays, or ever for that matter. But there are many that are like feel like they're in mud currently. And yeah, you can also not evolve at all. Like you literally need somebody to come into your life to pull you out of it. Literally, relationship wise, friend wise, whatever it is. Yeah, it can be that serious. That's what's happening now. Yeah, and your social media is making things worse because it's adding more confusion. And the way children, kids are raised these days, they're going a lot of them are going backwards. Well, because they think they're adults and they're not. Like they're 12, 13, think they're adults. And they just kind of ruin their lives at that point and they don't know what to do with themselves. So, yeah, the modern technology, humanity is not that modern. It's still kind of stuck in 1800s, 1840s. So it has not, I mean, yes, there was somewhat of a smarter time period, some level. It was more educated to a certain, well, not always. But just many are just kind of yeah, they don't know where they are. They don't know how to fit in this modern world. It's like no matter how much they try, they're in quicksand. And that's why some of you are running into some of these situations. I feel like you're being pulled in this way. Well, even some of you have been going through a lot of difficulties. You've been incarnated here so many times, you can kind of figure it out, sort of. Like you figure, you're getting on steady ground while others are still out, sitting in the river, floating away, trying to figure out their life. They might be able to fit in socially, sort of. But just because you're socially awkward doesn't mean that you know who the hell you are. You can be more shattered. Like the more social you are, the more empty you can be. Usually the antisocial is the ones that don't need to be social because I know who I am to a certain level. But others are trying to grasp at others to figure out who they are. Like if you're being super social, not always, but there are cases like this where you're just grabbing at everybody, just trying to figure yourself out. It doesn't always work. And then, yes, you might find a run somewhere that actually can help you figure yourself out. And you're like, wow, I'm different than everybody, aren't I? And in that realization, to figure out that you're just so different than everybody else. Like you're socially awkward, but you're social, and you find out you're actually probably some kind of rebel and don't even know it. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm being social, but actually I should be just not social and just do my own thing. It's kind of a weird, it's like a weird awakening there. So, but those, like to give you some context, those are so social. How you're doing all that. There's versions of that just being decent, kind. Others are just trying to figure themselves out. So if I shake your hands with all these people, maybe I can get some idea of who the hell I am, and they can do that until they're like 90 or wherever. Not everybody's like that, but there is a version